notebook with chapter जो important facts है उसको Hello. Ma, வந்துச்சு. Okay.
We are meeting. But
You can't see anything because you haven't put it.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the Zoom class. We're going to get started. So I'll get you to, I just want to remind you to stay muted for the class. So I will be muting you guys, but then throughout, could you make sure that you stay muted?
we are meeting.
So, yeah, thank you guys. So, so just remember to stay muted so that, we don't have too much disturbance in the class.
Just
Yeah, so
Okay.
Anand, could you please stay muted?
okay.
So we're going to get started. So I'll get. Okay. So, today the plan is to, in the first half of the session, I want to do a quick recap of writing. So there's a few things I want to go through in writing. We will go through that in the first hour from 4 to 5 p.m. I'll give you guys a 5-minute break. And then afterwards, we'll go through some questions from mock exam 1, and then that'll be the plan for today. Now, it won't be like our Zoom class that we did in the past, where, you guys can ask specific questions and you guys can talk and things like that. Just because of how many kids we have, we just are not able to run a class that big, right? So it's mostly going to be me going through these things. It's recorded, and then you'll just be able to watch it, and then hopefully it's of value to you. So let me start screen sharing. Okay.
I just see.
So let's go to the topic. Okay. One other thing I'll ask you guys to do is, if you see anyone using a fake name, do let me know. So everyone, students who are old and students who are new, just just a reminder for you that if you have a fake name, you will be asked to leave. I mean, you'll be removed from the Zoom call. So, for example, there's someone here with the name 61424. That's not a real name, so we will kick you out. Someone else with the name CK, CT, H, things like that. After a while, I'll check, and then I'll be removing you. If you are disturbing the class, I'll remove you as well. Okay. So yeah, so let's get started. I'll answer most of your questions hopefully by the end of the session. I won't be checking the meeting chat as much in today's session. Ayush, could you just send your questions in the chat if that's okay? But yeah, so I'll be pretty much going through the plan that we had for today. Okay, so the first thing I want to go through is, here we have the writing topic for your mock exam 1. Now, in the writing topic, what I want you to keep in mind is okay. So what I want you to keep in mind for the writing topic is, the first thing is, in the GATE exam, they're looking for 3 things only, and that is, let me screen rotate, then do not disturb. Okay. So they're really looking for 3 different things, which is your originality, how original your writing is, your creativity, creativity, originality, and uniqueness, right? So these are the main things that they're looking for. And the reason they're looking for these three things as the main, criteria for marking is because in your writing, actually, before we go into that itself, let me ask you, the test you're writing, it's called gifted and talented, right? And I'm pretty sure almost everyone in this call knows what the words gifted and talented means, right? Someone who is gifted, someone who's talented. And one of the ways they can evaluate how gifted you are or how talented you are is by looking for how creative you can be, how original your ideas are, and how you can, think of topics, stories, things like that are outside of the box. Because when you're doing the GATE writing exam, there's about 6,000 to 8,000 students doing the exam with you. And what they're looking for is, how your thinking process or how, your creative process is different from everyone else. And especially when you have this many people and they all have the exact same, topic to write about, what they're essentially would see is that most kids write the same story. So if you have, this image, again, as we were running your mock exams, a lot of you wrote very, very similar stories, or you didn't write about the topic at all, right? So for example, a lot of kids would just straight away just write about doors. So they would write about magic doors. They'll write about doors that are portals to somewhere else. They'll write about time traveling doors to different dimensions, things like that, right? Then other kids, what we saw was a lot of kids were writing about completely random topics. So it wasn't even to do with the topic itself. They were just writing a story and hoping that, they would get marks for it. Now you can't do that because, you have to write about the topic. And then finally, we had a group of kids who wrote about what this image could represent, right? What the idea of this image or what this image could represent, but they didn't make the connection obvious enough. So these were some of the biggest issues that we saw in the writing. So let's break down this image. Let's see what we're looking at. So first of all, let's take a look. Here we have a lady. And again, if you were to focus on her hair, you could say that she's an old woman, right? She's an old woman, or, let's just say she's just a woman. She's standing within this door and she's not coming outside. So she's not coming outside to talk to her directly. She's staying inside and not even opening the door to let her in. She's blocking this entrance, but she's talking to her. And she's talking to her, and what she's saying is she's talking about these different doors, right? As you can see, this is an orange door with a handle like this, right? It's got a key and it's got a round handle. And the door she's describing is, for example, a darker orange door with a curved handle, a yellow door with a round handle with no key, another door with a different handle, and then a blue door with a curved handle. And she's talking to this girl here. And again, if you were to go even deeper, you could say that, oh yeah, so, this girl, if you look at her hairstyle, it looks very similar to this old lady. So maybe this could be an older version of her talking to her. But let's just say you don't go that deep, and all you notice is someone standing in a door telling this person there's these different doors, right? And the most common thing you could, link it to, or the most like basic idea you could link it to, is a famous quote, or proverb, which says, when one door closes, another one opens for you, right? Can I get, for example, in Zoom, there's this thing called these emoji reactions, for example, like this. Can you see that? Can you guys do me an emoji reaction with a thumbs up or a thumbs down? If you actually just give me a thumbs up if you understand what this proverb means, or a thumbs down if you don't understand what it means, right? So I'm assuming most of you know what this means, right? It literally means that, in life, if one opportunity, goes away, there are other opportunities that come up that you can access, correct? Perfect. So that's essentially what this topic could mean. Now, if you wrote about it like that, if you talked about opportunities and if you talked about how there's different opportunities in life, you could easily, for example, in terms of marks, you could easily get into the top, for example, top 40 to 30% of marks, top 30 to 40% of marks, right? But here's the main thing. Here's what I want you to pay attention to. I think there was a student in my Saturday class or Sunday class. Let me check if he's in the group in the call today. No, he's not in the call today with us. But he was in my Saturday or Sunday class, and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, Melvin, why did I get marks so low? I talked about opportunity. I wrote about it like that. Why did I get 0 marks for using the topic?" Now, here's the thing. Will you guys be able to discuss your writing with your gauge marker after you've done the exam? Do me an emoji reaction. Do you think you'll be able to talk to your gauge marker after they mark your writing? Good. You guys are giving me, most of you are saying no. Good. And the answer is no, you can't, right? You can't discuss with them. So what you need to keep in mind, right? Again, for this section, I want really everyone's full attention, right? I really want your full attention. You can't discuss your writing with your marker. So if you can't discuss it with them, but you want to be unique and you want to be original and you want to write about what the image could represent, you need to make it obvious. You need to make it obvious that you use the topic. Do you guys understand? So if you didn't use the topic in an obvious manner, you will not get marks, right? And the reason being is the question is clearly asking you, to use this topic to write your story. And if you don't use this topic, then they can't give you good marks. Do you guys understand? So, for example, if you want to write a story about opportunity, maybe an easy way of linking it in is somewhere you could just say, like you could have someone in the character just saying, this quote. So, for example, if the story is about a boy who really wanted to get into the school soccer team and he didn't get in, then the story could be about how he his soccer coach just comes up to him and says, "Hey, Jace, just because there's one door closed on you doesn't mean that life is over, right? When that one door opens, another one when one door closes, another one opens for you." Do you guys understand? So keep that in mind. When you're writing, make sure you're aiming to be creative, aiming to be unique, aiming to be different from what the literal image is, but you have to link the image back to this topic, right? Dylan, do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
Dylan? Okay. And could you, like, for example, the reason I'm asking you, Dylan, is because like one of the main reasons I use this topic was, it was a suggestion by you where you told me that you were kind of getting confused about whether to use the literal topic versus using it as a metaphor, things like that, right? So based off that, do you feel like you understand it better now, or is there a question that you still have about this? Because if there is, it would be not only helpful for you, but it could be helpful for everyone else in the Zoom call.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone else? If you have a question, could you send it in the chat? Does anyone have any questions about how to use your topic? So I'm not going to be answering random questions, but if you have a very specific question to do with using the topic versus using a metaphor or a different version of it, send it in the chat and I'll try to answer it. So I'll just give it a moment. And then as you're sending that in, I'm just going to check for something else. Okay. Okay, so a few people said, do you have to do a metaphor? Do you have to use the metaphor, things like that? Okay. Okay, let's talk about the metaphor. Now, before I talk about the metaphor, let me see if I can do something really quickly. I want to bring something up. Give me a moment, okay? Okay. Okay, this is good. Share screen, share with this. Perfect, awesome. So this is the marking key that we are using right now for Loyola. Now, in the past, so about 2 terms ago, so since Loyola, so actually, here's a fun way of how Loyola's marking key has evolved based off feedback, and then obviously as we improve as teachers over time. In the very beginning, when Loyola first started, the marking was out of 30. So it was 10 marks for creativity, 10 marks for structure, and 10 marks for punctuation, spelling, and grammar. And then we later realized, well, that is not a great way of marking because creativity is the main, section that they're getting marked for. But then creativity is only getting 30% of the marks in the total exam. So we switched it to about 3 years ago. So actually, literally after the first cohort of Loyola students, we switched it to this sort of marking key, where we have out of 50 marks, where 30 of the 50 marks is for your creativity. So about 60% of your marks is for creativity. And creativity is then split into 3 sections. We have topic implementation, morals and messages, and how feasible your writing is. Again, these things could change over time. And then we change it to, these sort of structures as well. Also, this is not the most recent version. No. Let me open up the most correct version. So we've made an even better version of this. So let me open that up. Yeah. So sorry, yeah. Actually, I'll just use this for a second to show you. So this was the old version. So pretty much from our second year of Loyola to like about 2 terms ago, we had this version. And as you can see in our marking key, it says topic is consistently used as a metaphor throughout the text. Now, the reason we use the word metaphor is because we said an easy way for you to stand out from everyone else is to, instead of writing about the image itself, like instead of writing about what you clearly see, write about what the thing you're looking at could represent. And we've had a lot of success with that. So for example, for the first 4 years, so we've just finished, I think, 4 cohorts, and you guys are the 5th cohort of Loyola. The first 4 cohorts of Loyola, the best, actually, sorry, we finished 5 cohorts, you're the 6th cohort. Actually, I don't know, I'm getting it mixed up. Essentially, all I'm saying is until last year, all of the cohorts of Loyola, their best subject was writing. So the highest mark that all of our students received, because we collect the scores if parents tell us, their highest score was writing. So we know that what we were doing was correct. But the reason we changed it from metaphor to what I'll show you soon is because it's not necessarily that you have to use a metaphor. So for example, we started seeing a lot of stories that were talking about the image itself. So, for example, they were talking about an actual door, or they're talking about a girl standing in front of a door. They were talking about what they were actually seeing, but they're using it in a very unique or creative way. And the question was, we're not marking you for how well you can find metaphors, but we're marking you for how creative you can be. Now, for those kids who are confused what a metaphor is usually something that's symbolic of something else. So, for example, if you see in a cartoon, someone waving like a white flag, like a white flag like this, it's a symbol or it's a metaphor for peace, right? If you see two politicians at a global event, and one politician is like pulling the other person closer and showing their strength, it's a metaphor, or it's symbolic of their power. Could you make sure you're not drawing on the screen? Is it? Yeah, Enrica. Okay, I'll rub this out later. But actually, I'll rub it out now. Where's the rubbing out? Clear screen. Okay. All right. So again, so that's what metaphors meant, right? Now, from there, here's what the new Loyola marking key looks like. Let me show you that.
Wait, is Melvin gone?
Yeah,
Says-
probably.
It says that Guyan is the host now.
I think he left or something.
He didn't leave. He started freezing and then he started talking.
No, I think he evaporated. He probably evaporated.
That's how it said. No, at the top right screen, it said that Guyan is the host now.
What?
I
Oh.
saw that. Don't
Who's the
do
host?
anything. What happened? Look
Who's the host?
Guys, calm down. Melvin's coming.
Hey everyone, it's Melvin. I'm just
Hi.
through my iPad. My Wi-Fi just cut out, so I'm just trying to rejoin, but we'll get it continued.
Is everything fine?
Are you using someone's hotspot?
Perfect. So it's working now.
Is your iPad okay?
Melvin,
Okay,
there's a
awesome. So
guy
it's
called
working now.
6142.
So it's working now. Okay, so let me screen sharing again. Did this. Okay, perfect. So this is where what the new Loyola under full screen. This is what the new Loyola marking key looks like. So here, instead of metaphors, we've changed it to essentially what you're being marked for, which is not how well you can make a metaphor, but whether you have an exceptionally unique and original, you're using it in an exceptionally unique or original manner, right? So what we mean by that is, again, so this is very subjective. It's up to the marker to, make that judgment call, whether it's being unique or original. But you can write about, for example, your literal image. So if it's doors and you want to write about doors, go for it, right? But did you use it in an exceptionally unique, original manner, right? And that's where you'll get, these extra marks for. And then again, another thing that Loyola changed was, in the past, it was your story must be realistic. So we said, hey, a lot of you guys are writing about, completely random fantasy sort of stories where you're saying, oh yeah, they have they could travel through magical doors and portals and things like that. We said no to that initially because we said, hey, most of you guys who are writing about these magical stories, it doesn't look very creative. It's not, a lot of times it was coming off as very lazy writing, right? Where instead of actually using the topic in a creative, unique manner, you're just using it in a way that makes it easier for you to write a story, and it just comes off a bit lazy. And then again, because you're using magic, you're able to solve your problems really easily and quickly, just because you don't have to, I guess, solve it in the story. So that's why we said realistic initially. But then again, we started reading a lot of stories where it was very interesting. It was a very good story, although they had magic or unrealistic elements to it. So we said again, your job is not to essentially write a story that's fully realistic. That's fine, but it must be feasible. And what does feasibility mean? It means that your story must make sense in the context that you're putting it in. So for example, in the Batman or Spider-Man movies, Batman and Spider-Man are superheroes that are not very realistic. They exist in a different universe that does not, make sense in our universe. But everything they do within that universe or within those stories make sense. They make sense. For example, you don't see Batman, fighting someone and then suddenly he just transforms to a giant and then, is able to mind control things and destroy the planet in one snap of his finger, right? Batman has his limitations and he is bound by those limitations, right? Or Spider-Man has to, for example, maybe replenish his webs. His webs can run out of enough web shooters or whatever. Or Spider-Man can't time travel or things like that, right? To solve things. He is again bound by the physics of his story. So similarly, as long as your stories are feasible in the sense that it makes sense within the world you create, and you're not using it to solve problems in a lazy manner, your stories can be fantasy based. Okay. So the people who have the questions have the hands up, just send me the questions in the chat, and then I'll try to answer it.
The chat
No,
is
Vivian?
weird because it says that Melvin Tom isn't in the meeting, so we can't send anything in the chat.
Yeah, so that's the old Melvin Tom. So for example, if I say hey now, you can just reply to the new one.
Okay.
Vivian, I'm not sure why you're sending me these random images. Not appropriate for our class. The vein Corallage. Okay, so Kapish.
I was asking you a
Rita-
question.
Sorry?
I was asking you a question.
Oh, I'm. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't see that. For some pictures, they're leaning towards a different style. Isn't made for every style. Okay, interesting. So basically, what Vivian did was he sent me an image of a bunch of furniture. Where did you get this image from?
It was from another tuition I
Tuition,
did.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So he sent me an image of a bunch of furniture, and he's saying some images have a different style. What should we do with that? Things like that. Now, one thing that is interesting is, again, so for example, let's just go back to, for example, 1 second, guys. My dog's just barking. Let me let him out. 1 second.
Hello.
He has a dog.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
There's a guy called 61424.
Yeah, I know.
Leave
Sorry.
it there. Say it, guys. I don't ask you to go unmuted. All right. So as I was saying, so in the mock exam you guys did today, recently, the image had some sort of a message behind it, right? So for example, it was very clear that was about opportunities and doors. For example, you could get a completely random image you can get a completely random image where there is no deeper meaning, and that's very possible. So for example, when I did the GATE exam, it was a very random image. It was just a road with leaves on it. But at the same time, there are images that do have meaning. So for example, it was like there's a few topics, I'll talk about that later, but that come with meaning. Now, you will see over the 5 mock exams images where there could be a deeper meaning behind it. Again, those are easier in one sense, where you can find a deeper idea behind it, and then you could stand out. But they're also harder because everyone else can find that same idea. And then you'll see some images where there are topics where either there's a quote or there is just an image where there is no deeper meaning behind it, where it's just a random thing. And then it's up to you to figure out how you can do it in an interesting way. So for example, if it is a light bulb, again, there's a classic example that Loyola talks about. If it's just a light bulb, and most kids will just write about, oh yeah, there's a light in my room, or oh, I got an idea, and things like that. A really interesting story idea that somebody said a while ago, like a long time back, was they said, well, a light bulb is symbolic of great change. A light bulb can really help people escape poverty. And the story they wrote about was a young boy who lived in a village in very, very poor village. And in this village, they didn't have electricity and they didn't have light bulbs. So every day he would have to wake up early when the sun rises. He would go help his mom and dad in their little farm, in their house. And then he would then go to school. Once he comes back, he could study till about 6 o'clock when the sun sets. And after that, he can't study anymore. And he would have to go to sleep early, and then that's the end of the day. His mom, again, would have to do all the cooking, all the cleaning, all fixing the house, all those sort of things within the early mornings till the sun sets. And his dad, who's a farmer, will have to clean his tools, do the farming and everything before the sun sets. So one day, this village gets electricity, and every single house is given a light bulb. Now, the kid doesn't have to wake up too early because he can, they can have light much earlier and later in the night as well. So the kid can, when he gets home, instead of having a couple of hours to study, he now has as much time as he wants to study. So he's able to study longer and harder. So he's able to get higher marks in school. The mom is able to spend more time in the evenings cooking and also like making little things that she can sell in the market to make extra money for the family. And the dad is able to fix his tools late in the evening so the next day he can spend more time in the farm, which makes his farm more productive. And over time, this small village becomes very successful and they escape poverty because of light bulb. This story uses the topic. It talks about an actual light bulb, right? It uses a light bulb. But do you see how it's used in a very unique and original manner? It tells us a story that nobody really thinks about. They don't think about, for example, the power of a light bulb or the incredible things you can do with a light bulb, right? So it would definitely get a mark where it would be, the topic is used in an exceptionally unique and original manner. So that's an example of, if you have a very random image where there is no deeper meaning behind it, you have to find the deeper meaning. Okay, I'm going to read through some of the questions. I'll answer the ones I feel are very important. The ones that are not important, I'm going to skip and then maybe help you out later. So let me take a look.
Excuse me, Melvin.
Sorry, Shashwant, I'm not taking questions over the chat, over the microphone. If you have questions, you'll have to send it in the chat. Just because if everyone does that, it'll be very, very chaotic. Do you gain more marks for writing in different styles, such as a diary entry, information report, or newspaper articles? Now, here's the other thing I want to talk about. In writing, there is no specific writing type you have to use. So for example, you don't have to write a story, you don't have to do a persuasive, You don't have to do an information text. You don't have to do an interpreted text, a newspaper article, a diary entry, a poem, things like that. You can do whatever you want, right? They're not limiting you to a specific, writing topic. Okay. The topics are usually generic enough where you can do whatever you want. So unlike NAPLAN, for example, in NAPLAN, they specifically ask you for something. So because of that, you should most of the time choose a writing type which you feel like you can produce the most unique, creative writing, text that also doesn't compromise your marks in, for example, sections like structure and stuff like that. Okay. Let me see what other questions there are. Oh yeah. Someone made a very good spot here. This is a typo. It should say the text is very unfeasible, not very feasible. It says very unfeasible. The text is, or it's like, it's the text is not feasible. Okay. This is another interesting question. And the question is, why do we need to talk about, let's see, sorry, 1 second. Okay. So why do we need to talk about, have a moral or message? Why do you need to do that? Now, the reason I tell you to use a moral or message or have, a moral message for your story is mostly because a good story or a story that will stand out will have a deeper meaning behind it, or they will have a moral or a message. So stories that don't have a moral or message where people learn from it, they're not really stories. They're instead actually, I guess, a description of what happened or a description of a series of events. So if you want your story to be a story and a good story, it needs to have a moral or a message, and it helps it stand out. Okay, if you wrote something like a poem, it will be less words than a narrative. So are you marked on the amount of content? Interesting question. It's not about how much you write. It's all about the quality. So for example, what I would recommend is for most kids, aim for at least about 1 page, but don't go more than 1.5 pages or even 2 pages, because you have 25 minutes, right? If you can write one A4 page, just one side of it, and you write it really well, you'll do exceptionally well. Now, poetry, yes, you have less content itself, like there's less amount, the quantity is low. So you really have to stand out in terms of your quality, right? Sometimes you can confuse people by having more quantity, but you will have to shine using the quality of your text in order to do well in poetry as well. Okay, so then there's a bunch of other questions, guys. So I just want to, for the sake of time, I'm going to skip those. Because what I want to talk to you now about is this other idea. So this thing, what I want to go through is to do with how you can, again, improve your writing, especially story writing. So screen share, screen start. Okay, add a new page. Add a new page. Okay, and the topic I want to go through again, mostly because this is an area where a lot of you were not doing quite well in, which is problems. And the reason problems are so important, by the way, one other question that I saw that was very interesting was about other text types, like, marking keys for persuasive poetry and things like that. I'm not going to focus on that today. Again, because of how little time we have with each other and things like that, one of the things that I have to do is I have to prioritize. And that means that I don't get to do everything. So I'm prioritizing to choose the areas which I feel will help the most amount of students the most. So for example, in the mock exams that we did, less than 5% wrote a persuasive text. 95% of students wrote a narrative. And the reason is most of you guys are naturally just really good at narrative. So again, you guys have been with us, hopefully most of you have been with us for 3 terms. So you should have had a good idea of what our persuasive key looks like. If we get time later on, maybe I'll get to show it to you, but I'm going to have to skip that for now. All right. So problems. The reason problems are so good and so important to focus on is because it helps you with several things. The first thing it helps you with is it helps you with your structure of your story. So your narrative structure specifically, right? Structure. Okay. Oops. All right. Structure of your narrative. It's going to help you a lot there. And the second area where problems will really help you focusing on it is it's going to help you with your morals plus message. Okay? Now, I'm going to start off by describing what I always see most students do and what you should be doing. What I see a lot in your GATE, writings that you submit is this is what your writings look like. Imagine the y-axis here is problems, right? Where the higher it is, it's huge problem / tension. And the x-axis here is time in your story. So, this is the beginning. This is the beginning, and this is the end. Okay? Why are parents? Sorry. All right. So beginning and the end. Now, most students, what I've seen, this is what their story looks like. It starts off with low problem. There's some sort of problem, and it just like stays like this, and it just kind of like drifts to the end. The narrative structure says you start off with a big problem, it goes up, reaches your climax, comes down, and then it kind of stays, around here. Where, the character is not where they were before. There is some level of like higher level of tension, but it's not at the same height where the climax was. And the other thing is, there's this much rising action, right? Most of your story should be rising action. Actually, the graph should, in fact, look like this. The graph should more so look like this, right? Where the majority of your story is rising action. But instead, the majority of your stories, what I've seen is that there's a lot of beginning, there's a little bit of rising action, and a little bit of climax. Actually, sorry, it's more like this. It's like a little bit, mostly the beginning, the setting, a little bit of rising action, climax, and then it ends like this, right? So today I'm going to teach you how you can improve that. So the first thing is the rules are like, there's 3 rules on how to create a good problem. Rule number 1, create a problem that demands your character's attention. So Loyola students who've been with us for the previous terms, you would have definitely seen this. But again, this is just a revision class, right? We're going through it again. So create a problem that demands your character's attention. What does that mean? Don't create a problem where it's not big enough for them to really, focus on, not big enough for them to really worry about. Something like, oh yeah, I went to the park and I lost my ball. I'm sure most of you guys have been to the park, you've lost your soccer ball or your cricket ball, and yeah, you were sad for a bit, but you still don't spend the rest of your life thinking about it, right? You need to create a problem that is so big that your character has no choice but to focus on it. That makes an interesting problem, right? So for example, maybe something as simple as, something as crazy as, they get kidnapped, or their parents get kidnapped. Something is, big and audacious like that. By the way, please, I really hope that this weekend I don't see 100 different kidnapping stories. Like, be unique. Think about something else, something that's really big enough that'll force your attention. Something that not so sinister, not so scary would be something like, imagine you're going on a road trip and you run out of fuel. Is that a problem that will demand your attention? Yes. Imagine being in the middle of the Australian outback and you run out of fuel. That is going to demand your attention because, you're stuck. It's really hot, and you have limited food and water, right? Create a big problem that demands your character's attention. Rule number 1. Rule number 2. Let me think. Remember. Create a problem that cannot be solved in a predictable manner. So what that means is that, imagine back to the story of you going on a road trip and you running out of fuel, right? Don't make it so easy where that there's a fuel station 2 kilometers away that they could just walk to and get fuel and come back, right? Make it big enough or make it challenging enough where they can solve it easily. They're in the middle of nowhere. They have no cell phone connection. They have no fuel stations nearby. They have to figure things out, right? Ask yourself, is this problem, so easy that it can be solved in a predictable, easy manner? And that's what makes the rising action, right? Where it goes up, 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 right? It builds the tension. And finally, create a problem that forces your character to grow. So for example, at the beginning of your story, your character is flawed. They're weak. They have some sort of issue with them, right? Whether they're lazy, they're full of anger, they're full of jealousy, they're lazy, they're what else is there? Mean, they're rude, they're greedy, whatever it is. They must have some sort of character flaw. They're dumb, yeah. And then the problem forces them to grow to become a better version. So if you think about the best stories that you've ever read, you will remember that 1, the problem was big, that it forced their attention. 2, it wasn't solved in a very easy manner. They had ups and downs. And 3, by the end of the story, the character is a different person, or they've become a better version than the beginning of the story. Got it? So the 2 main things that I want you to take away from today is, 1, you all need to try and make your problems better, make it bigger and harder and more interesting. By the way, these 2 parts, right? Rules 1 and 2, helps with your narrative structure, where it helps you build up that nice big rising action. Rule number 3 will help you with your morals and messages, where it will show you, or it will teach the audience how you can go from a bad person in the beginning to a better person in the end. Got it? So, excuse me. The first thing to keep in mind is problems. And the second thing to keep in mind is make sure your stories are unique and not about the literal image. Okay, I'll take some questions now. So we have 10 minutes. Send your questions in the chat. I'm not going to scroll back up and read through previous questions. It'll be first come, first serve with the chat. Again, I'll try to prioritize. I won't answer every question, but I'll try to answer most, and especially the really important ones. If you use a quote in writing, would you get more marks? Sure. If it's a good quote and it makes your story better, yeah, you could get more marks. What do we focus on more, or problem or solution? Very interesting question. That's a very good question. For the time being, well, actually, first thing is they both go hand in hand, right? A good problem requires a good solution, right? And you really can't have a good solution for a very basic, weak problem, right? So they kind of go hand in hand. You can have a very good problem and a bad solution, like a very weak solution. That's not good. So they need to go hand in hand. For most of you, I would say, try fixing the problem aspect of your story before worrying too much about the solution, but it's important as well. How much of the writing should be the problem? In terms of your, one A4 size paper, I would say the first maybe 3 lines should be your introduction, where you're telling the setting, the character, and what the character wants, or whatever the problem is. And then this much should be the rising action. And then, this would be your climax, and this will be the ending, like that, right? In the future mock exam, will there be a title only, not a picture? I don't want to have a mock exam topic with just words. You will get a mock exam topic where there is an image and maybe a quote underneath it, but it won't be just words. And the reason being is I haven't seen many GATE exams where they've had it like that. And I just don't want to confuse you. How do you write a big problem in 20 minutes? Well, you figure it out. You practice. You see, the more you try to do it, the better you get it. Should we write from first person or third person point of view? Doesn't really matter. You can write either way. How can you make a conclusion to make it more interesting? Well, your conclusion is not where you need to be that interesting. Like the conclusion of a story, as long as it ends properly, you should be okay. Most of your marks, or most of where a story becomes really good, is in the beginning to the middle section, right? And then I guess somehow how it's solved. But it's really about how big the problem is, how the problem's solved, and how it affects the character. How do you project your moral through the story? Well, it's just as you write and as you go through the problem and then you show your character learning from it, that's a way to show your moral, the show don't tell sort of thing. Worst case scenario, you can just have it as a line somewhere. You won't get, really high marks for it, but you will still get decent marks if everything else is good. what should you be reading to get better ideas for writing these last few weeks? Well, I wouldn't say there's anything you can really read in the next few weeks to really improve. What I would recommend is, again, if this is an honest question and if this is something everyone wants to learn, right? If everyone in the class honestly wants to really improve the ideation aspect of it, how to think about good ideas, if you're being really truthful, what you should do is go to your mom and dad and tell them to say random words. Like honestly, just random words like ladder, chair, ceiling, leaf, tile, whatever it is, and then give you a minute or two to think of an idea and say a story. You don't have to write anything down. You don't have to do a full story, just creating ideas and telling the story to your mom and dad. And then ask them, hey, mom and dad, would you say that story was unique or creative? Or would you say that's something that most people would think about? Do you guys understand? And if you were to say a story that your mom and dad would have thought about themselves, then you're not going to you won't get a good mark because both of you had the same idea. But if you're able to think of something unique and your mom and dad says, oh wait, that's actually a good idea, then you can get a good mark. And again, for this exercise, your parents don't have to, for example, I know a lot of your moms and dads don't speak English as a first language, and English might not be their strongest subject. So for this exercise, it doesn't matter what language you do it in. It's all about thinking of ideas. And whether they speak a different language or not, they've definitely through their whole life have read or heard of many different stories. So they can tell what a good story is and what a bad story is. So that's a way to improve. Is it okay to end in a cliffhanger? Preferably not, just because nobody's going to be coming back to reading the second, story that you write, because the gate marker's not coming back to it. So I really don't like it. But if you can do it in a very good way, where you write a really good story and you have a really nice ending with a cliffhanger, really good, you can get marked for that. Should the rising action be more detailed than the climax? Yes. The rising action is most of the story. The climax is just like the tipping point. Should we include speech or dialogue in our story? It's really up to you, depending on your story or not. I think I've answered most of you. There's a few that I have skipped because I hope that it is answered in other ways. But let's see. Oh gosh, there's so much repetition. So, like some people just keep spamming, so it's like hard to see. What happens if your mom and dad insults your story? That's always very embarrassing and sad, but just move on. Just I guess there's nothing you can do about it and just say, okay, I guess that story's not good. Let's try another one. Funny question though. In the real gate exam, will the writing key be identical to Loyola's version? Absolutely not, right? Absolutely not. The gate exam's writing key is not going to be the same as Loyola's because Loyola's is made by us. And as you guys saw, we keep improving it and changing it to get closer and closer to the actual gate exam. The gate exam's marking key is a secret. We have no idea what it is. Oh my gosh. There's so many questions. What is harder, Loyola or the actual gate exam? Because I'm getting really nervous. Loyola's pretty much usually harder than the other ones. Okay. Finally, there's a lot of questions I saw that was asking things like, hey, if I do this, will I get better marks? If I do this, will I get better marks? For example, it was like, if I use idioms, will I get better marks? If I use what do you call it? Quotes, will I get better marks? If I do this, will I get better marks, right? You won't, right? Here's a summary. I can't tell you if you'll get better marks or not. It's kind of like asking someone, hey, you know, it's like asking your mom and dad, hey, mom and dad, between me and your other like, you know, my sibling, like for example, I have a sister. It's like me going to my mom and dad saying, hey, mom and dad, you know, am I prettier than my sister, or is my sister prettier than me? Right? You can't really answer that question, right? If you go ask your mom and dad, hey, am I prettier than my sibling? They can't answer that question, or, you know, who do you like better? Similarly, in your writing, it's not about whether you put this in or you put that in that's going to get you extra marks. It's more about, it's like art. In maths, there's a clear cut, you know, recipe on how you can get the marks. If you put the correct answer down, there is a correct answer. In English, there is no correct answer, right? It's all about how you put these things together. It's like art, right? There isn't a correct art and an incorrect art, right? It's all subjective to the people looking at it. So within a story, if you use an idiom that's very nice, it fits really well to the story, then it makes sense. If it doesn't, you're not going to get extra marks. So with that, I'm going to give you guys your 5-minute break. Come back at 5:07 p.m. and then we will go through mock exam 1 questions. All right?
Oh, can we stay in the class?
Yeah, you can. You just have to stay muted. That's it. You don't have to leave. But you just have to stay muted.
I have a question.
Yeah, send it in the chat. I'll try to answer it later. But yeah, I need to take a break as well. I need to get some water. And then I'll be right back. What I would recommend you guys is go get a snack, stretch, get some water, and see you guys soon.
Bye. Oh, yeah.
All right, everyone. Let's get started. So what I'll get you to do is, could you send to me in the chat questions that we didn't get to go through in the mock exam that you'd like to go through? So for example, some questions obviously are too easy that you don't need to go through again. Like for example, question number 4 or question number 13. But if there's any questions, because you guys all got to take the exam home, any questions that you went through, you checked the answer key, you're still not sure how it works, then send it in and then I'll try to go through it. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go through at least one question per student. Sorry, actually, at least one of your questions for the next hour. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. So that way, everyone gets a chance.
Melvin.
So 61424. First of all, you're supposed to change your name. I don't know who you are, but as I mentioned, you'll have to send it in the chat if you have questions.
My chat's not working.
Let me message you then. Let's see. Maybe this could work.
It says you're not in the call or something.
Because you're messaging the old account before I got kicked. Okay. Starting off with question number 10 from Arush. That was the first question that I got. Which bus ride from Middleton to Rosewood is the quickest? Okay. The reason I didn't go through this question is because this one was actually fairly straightforward. All you had to do was look at these rows and subtract the times, because that'll tell you what, the time it takes for each of the buses. So the first one, it is 9:05 minus 7:55. So if I were to do the numbers, maybe here, 9:05 minus 7:55, 7:55 to 8:05, that's an additional 10 minutes. And then 8:05 to 9:05, that's 1 hour. So the first bus takes 1 hour, 10 minutes. The second bus, leaving at 10:20 and 11:25, that takes 1 hour and 5 minutes. And the last bus takes 1 hour and 10 minutes. So it was basically just a simple subtraction. And that comes down to bus number 2 being the fastest. And the answer is A. Next, question number 24 out of abstract reasoning from Ishita. Yeah, sorry guys. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the marking key, but 24, it was an error by me personally. So the pattern, if you notice it, is that it's just all the dots are going like this. So if you follow it, so for example, if you were to follow this dot, so this dot here goes from there to there to there, and then it disappears. And then, a new set of dots are coming along. So if you were to follow it, they're all, going across like this. That's basically just the pattern. There's nothing, more interesting or crazy about it. But the mistake I made was when I made the answer key, I needed to move this across, and this across. And I accidentally forgot to do that. And instead, I moved it into this gap. So I moved it into this gap where all the dots were here. Yeah, thanks, Davian. So because of that, if you pretty much chose any of the options, it was a free mark. It was just a mistake. It's not correct. Manwith, question number 4. Is this quantitative reasoning, Manvit? Manvit, are you there? Okay. I don't know if he is. So moving on to Sangamesh. Sangamesh, which specific question would you like to go through? Okay, Sangamesh is not here. Aaron, question number 17. So Aaron, is it this question here, Aaron? By the way, if I call out for your name, just please unmute and you can just answer. So Aaron, are you here with us?
Yes.
Okay, so is it this question, Aaron? Question number 17?
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine the container in the above image is swapped and the left container read 200 grams. What is the weight of the new container? So in the previous question, question number 16, we found out that the container weighed 90 grams, right? We found out that it weighed 90 grams. So Aaron, what's happened is that they've swapped out the container that used to weigh 90 grams, okay? And now the new container weighs X grams. We don't know how much it weighs. But the total weight went from 270 and it went down to 200. So Aaron, here's my question to you. How many kilograms less does a new container weigh?
Uh, 70.
Yeah. So that means the 90-gram container, the new container is 70 grams less than the previous container, correct?
Yeah.
So the answer is D, 20 grams. Because the old container weighed 90 grams, the new container is 70 grams less, and therefore it's 20 grams.
Melvin, I have a question about the question that you just explained.
Yes.
How did you get 90? So it was a bit confusing.
So in the previous question, so we've all right, I'll do 16 really quickly. So there's two things you need to do to solve this question. The first thing is find out how much this syrup is in both questions. So in question number 1, we know that it has 120 milliliters of syrup plus the container is equal to 270 grams. Okay?
Yeah.
In the next container, we have in the next image, they poured out the syrup and now we're left with 40 milliliters. Okay? So that means they poured out 80 milliliters of syrup. And the container didn't change, nothing changed except that they poured out 80 milliliters of syrup. And the weight dropped by a total of 120 grams. So what that means is that the weight of 80 milliliters of syrup is equal to 120 grams. Everyone good so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in this container, we have 40 milliliters. So to find out how much that weighs, we know that 80 is 120, so 40 must be 60 grams. Okay? So what we know is that 40 milliliters of syrup, which is 60 grams, plus container, which is X grams, if you add up their weight, you get 150 grams. So now here's my question to you, Elma. If the syrup weighs 60 and the container plus the syrup gives you 150, how much does the container weigh?
90 grams.
That's right, because 60 plus 90 gives you 150. So that means the answer, that's how we got 90 grams.
Thank you.
All right, Ria, question number 8 in abstract reasoning. So, yes, Sangamesh?
Could you go through question number 19?
Is that the gear question you asked for earlier?
Yes.
Okay. Which statement is correct? So the correct answer was D. Gear 3 rotates in the same direction as gear 4, but faster than gear 4. So if you were to take a look, gear 4, when it goes clockwise, the question was about gear 3 and 4. When gear 4 goes clockwise, gear 2 goes anti-clockwise. And if gear 2 goes anti-clockwise, gear 3 goes clockwise. So that tells us that 3 and 4 both move in the same direction, right? They both move in the same direction. And then it says that a gear with fewer teeth will move faster than a gear with more teeth. Gear 3 has fewer teeth, so therefore gear 3 is faster than gear 4. So it makes sense for everything. We figured out that they're both same direction and it's faster. So that's why D is correct. And if you go through the other options, you'll realize that all of them are incorrect.
Oh,
AR,
okay.
Yep, question number 8. Good question to choose, by the way. This is a very good question to go through. So thank you, Ria, for choosing this question. So in this question, we have three different features. So we have these dots up here, then we have these dots. So two types of dots, and then we have these dots that are moving across up here. Now, how are they moving? That's the next question. So this question is actually one of the harder questions you can get in Loyola, right? Not because it's like too out of the box where it's crazy to figure out, but it is very difficult to see. But once you see the pattern, it's super, super easy. So the first thing is, remember, as I mentioned in class, every single time, whenever you get a hard pattern, there will be at least one easy pattern within it. So we have here, let's see, 2 goes to 1 to 3 to 2. So if you were to write that down, 2 to 1, what's that? Actually, I'll write that down. So left side. It starts off with 2, then it goes to 1, then it goes to 3, and then it goes to 2. 2 to 1 is minus 1. 1 to 3 is plus 2. 3 to 2 is minus 1. So the next one should be plus 2. So the left side in the final answer should have 4 dots. So that cancels out B, that cancels out C, and we're left with A and D. The right side has 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 dot. Well, it's pretty easy to guess what comes next, which is 5 dots.
5 dots.
So we're left with option D. So we've solved it. Now, for those of you who are curious about the pattern of the dots above, it's actually this. It's actually pretty hard. The pattern is you draw a line in the middle, and the left dots go, plus 1, as you can see here. And then it goes plus 1, but it comes back up here, as you can see here. And then it goes plus 1 here, as you can see here. And it goes plus 1 here, as you can see here and here. And the same thing for the right dot. So it starts off here, then it goes here, and then it goes here, and it should come back to the bottom, as you can see here. Here. So that's the pattern for question number 8. Next, Zainab, question number 2. Zainab, is that for abstract reasoning or quantitative reasoning?
Abstract reasoning.
Abstract reasoning?
Yep.
Okay. So let's take a look. So number of lines. So that's the first thing. So we have 2 features. We have number of lines and we have a triangle. Number of lines goes from 4 to 5 to 3 to 4. 4 to 5 plus 1. 5 to 3 minus 2. 3 to 4 plus 1. Next one should be minus 2. So there should be 2 lines or 2, I guess, connections, right? 2 points. So the answer has to be A or C. So far, all good?
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Next, we have the triangle. Again, here's what I want to go through again. Mapping. Now, how do you do mapping? Rule number 1, this is the hardest rule of mapping. This is the most complicated rule. Actually, this is the most complicated thing you learn in Loyola. So I want everyone to pay attention. This is rule number 1. Okay. Rule number 1, you draw a dot. That's it. That was a joke, by the way. It's not very complicated. It's pretty easy. So you draw a dot. And then in the first image, the triangle can go to the top right. That means that the triangle can also go bottom left. Next image, triangle went bottom right. So then it can go top left. Then it went down. So it can go up. Then it can go left. And then it can go right. So what we're saying by that is, as you guys can see, it went top right. So we draw a line here. So if you can go top right, it'll go here and it can go here. It went bottom right. So we draw a line here and it can go opposite direction. The triangle went to the bottom, so we can draw a line here and here. And the triangle went left, so we draw a line here and here. Right? So that's how you draw the map itself. Now we fill it in. In the first image, the triangle was here, then it was here, then it was here, and then it was here. So from 1 to 2, it goes plus 2. 2 to 3, plus 1. 3 to 4, plus 2. Next one should be plus 1. And the answer should be the top left, giving us C. Next, we have question number
Should it be
34
B?
from Gayan. Yeah.
Shouldn't it be B because there's 2 lines?
No, because this is considered 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
Gayan, question number 34, is that quantitative reasoning or abstract reasoning? Gayan? Okay, Gayan's not here. Anna Itiera, which question? 16 or 17? Anna, are you here?
16.
16. And is it abstract reasoning or quantitative reasoning?
Quantitative.
Okay. Did we do this? Oh, we've already done this, right? So
I mean 17. 17.
we've already done 17 as well.
Oh, okay.
Excuse
Ananya?
me.
Asher, again, I'll get you to send it in the chat, okay?
All right.
Ananya, question number 22. Let's take a look. Is it quantitative reasoning? Oh, yeah. By the way, answer key, I want, this is a good spot. So Ananya's got the Loyola supercar as her background itself. So this was a typo I made, in my head. So 180 divided by 4.5, it's not equal to 20. I made a dumb mistake in my head because I was thinking, oh yeah, 180 is the half, is like half of it, that's 90. And 4.5 is half of 90. So that means it's 20. But it's actually, silly mental math error. So it actually is 40. 40. The correct answer was 40, not 20. It was me doing mental math incorrectly.
I'm
All right.
here.
Oh, okay, Gayan, you're back. Gayan, are you calling in from the International Space Station?
Oh no.
The lag, we've asked you the question and you're replying 3 minutes later. I'm
Oh.
joking, Gayan. Which question do you want to go through?
Question 34, quantitative.
Okay. But yeah, fun fact, we actually had a student in Loyola who actually went to the International Space Station a long time back. His sister comes to Loyola. Her name's Lakshita. All right. Question number 34. The perimeter of a square-based swimming pool is 3 times the perimeter of another square-based swimming pool B. What is the ratio of the area of pool A to the area of pool B? So here's the thing. Here's how we do it. So first of all, a perimeter of a square is equal to 4 multiplied by its length. The area of a square is L squared. So far, all good? Now, if the perimeter of pool A is 3 times the perimeter of another square-shaped swimming pool B. So that means that if this is pool A, and pool A is 3 times the perimeter. So that would mean that it'll be 3 multiplied by 4 multiplied by L, and B is just 4 multiplied by L. So as you can see, this is perimeter B, and it's just 3 times as big. Do you understand, Gayan?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a perimeter. I'm going to simplify it, and then we now have 12L and 4L. And if you divide both sides by 4, what do you get, Gayan?
3 to 1.
Good man. 3L is equal to 1L. So what that means is that, Gayan, swimming pool A, its length is 3 times bigger than pool B. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have to find out the areas of both. So pool B, its area is equal to L squared, correct?
Yeah.
And pool A, it will be 9L squared. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that means pool A is 9 times as big as pool B in terms of area. Okay,
Okay.
got it?
Yeah.
So what is the ratio of the area of pool A to the area of pool B? So every 1 pool A is equal to 9 pool Bs, which is D. You guys understand?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Melvin,
Next. Yes, Alma?
for question 34, how is it 3 times 4 times the length? I get how it's the length, but I don't understand how it's 3 times 4.
Oh, because 4 times L is the same as pool B, right?
Yeah.
This is basically pool B, and the question says A is 3 times as big as B. So that's why we multiply B by 3 times. You understand?
Okay, thank you.
Doesn't it say that it's swimming pool A to pool A to pool B, so should it be 9 to 1?
Yeah.
No, because pool A is 9 times as bigger. Oh, actually, yeah. You're right. It's C. I always get mixed this up. Yeah, it's so one pool B is actually I'm messing it up because of the wording, but yeah, it should be 9 to 1. You're right. I'm messing up with how I'm wording it, but the answer is 9. Now the reason, by the way, it's 9 again to explain to you guys why it's not 1 to 9 or 9 to 1. The reason is pool A itself is 9 times bigger than pool B, right? So the way to think about it is, imagine you have 10 liters of water. 10 liters of water. Because pool A is 9 times bigger, for every 1 liter you give to pool B, you have to give 9 liters to pool A for it to kind of like fill up at the same rate. Do you guys understand? Yes, no, maybe. So that's why the ratio is 9 to 1.
I didn't get how it's 9 to 1.
As in you don't get why it's 9 to 1 as opposed to 1 to 9, or you just don't understand where we got 9 at all?
Yeah, I didn't understand we got 9 at all.
Sorry. So we've gone through that question, so I'm not going to repeat the question again. This is recorded, so you can double check the video and the answer keys there. And hopefully that would help you. But I'm working on something that might help you later on as well. And the reason I can't go through the question again is just because, for the interest of time and get as many questions as possible.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So the person called Tom, you're being removed. I'm sorry. Okay. Someone who had the name Tom, they were obviously trying to distract the class. Obviously, it's a fake name as well, because I don't think we have a single student called Tom. So he's just removed.
Melvin.
Kipish, question 26, 30, and 33. Which one would you like to do first?
Instead of the 3, could you do question 13 of abstract?
13?
Yeah.
13. Okay, this one here, right?
Uh-huh.
All right, this one was actually really easy. It looked confusing, but it's really easy. It's basically like Sudoku. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A is the answer. All good?
Okay, thanks.
Hannah J. Oh yeah, we've already done that. Shriram, I've answered your question before. Andrea, which one would you like to do?
Can you do 15?
Which exam?
Quantitative.
Okay. In Noelle's town, by the way, Noelle's a student from Loyola. She got into Perth Mod. I think her brother comes to Loyola as well. In Noelle's town of 120 people, 90 people have an age more than 30 years. Okay. So 90 people is more, actually, I think it's easier if I do this. Their age is greater than 30 years. So, and then everyone else is less than 20 years. So if it's 120 people, there's 90 who are above 30, then the rest is 30 that are under 20, correct? Andrea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and the question is asking, if you were to pick a random person from the town, what is the probability that their age is less than 20? So there's 30 people who are less than 20, and there's a total of 120 people. So the probability is 30 over 120, which is 3 over 12, which is 1 over 4, which is 25%. Do you understand?
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Nashley, which question would you like to do? Wait, are these abstract quantitative reasoning questions, 16 and 34?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've already gone through those two. Deepinder, which question would you like to go through?
I'd like to go through question 35 of quantitative reasoning.
All right, let's take a look. Okay, Mr. Lai buys a large can of paint to renovate his house. Bruce uses 1/3 of the paint to color the living room. Drake uses one quart. By the way, these are real Loyola students, Bruce and Drake. 1/3 of the paint to paint the living room, and Drake uses 1/4 of what is left to paint the kitchen. If there are
Why
6,
did you never put my name?
well, hopefully we'll get you featured. What we normally do is we just put everyone's name in a random name generator. So we literally just put it in a random name selector. And then depending on if we have time or not, because usually a lot of times we're like super, super busy getting everything done. We sometimes try to put kids' names in. So it's just a random name generator that picks the names, not me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you should try and put at least everyone who wants to have their name in at least once, like me.
All right. Okay. I'll see what I can do. Let me see. Let me figure out a way I can do this.
We will do a name protest.
How about this? I'll send a message.
Save our names. Save our names.
Okay, Krish, you're getting kicked out, and I'm talking to your mom and dad because I saw your name and what name you chose as well. Okay. So, anyways, by the way, that's a rookie mistake. If you're going to change your name, don't turn your camera on because I can see who you are. Back to what I was saying. I'll send a message to the group chat for all the kids who are in the Zoom call today. I'll say, I'll send just a random, pretty much a message today again, talking to parents about things. But, gosh, this is embarrassing. Anyways, so what I was going to say was you guys can, I guess, react to it. And then everyone who reacts to it, you can get your mom and dad's phone and react to that message. The next message that Loyola sends, I'll try to put your names in the next few exams. Sounds good?
So can we type our name and can we just write a thumbs up and then our name?
Yeah, so for example, I'll be sending a message soon just saying, hey, here's a link to the recording session, or here's this, here's that, something. I'll send a message, and then whatever the message is, you know, you can I guess react to it, and then I'll give it to you. Okay.
Wouldn't you only see like our parents' name, not our name?
But I know who your parents are.
Oh, okay.
You
Alright.
reacted.
Let me
So-
continue.
Melvin,
Yeah, last question, yeah.
could we do question 7 from quantitative reasoning?
So again, Jeev, I'm having to be fair to everyone. You have to send it in the chat. So I'm literally going through the chat, and pretty much I'm just choosing people who sent first, and I'm just choosing one per person, and that's how I'm going through it. But so everyone who's had their hands up, I'm not going to be taking your questions over the messages. You'll have to send it directly in the chat. Okay, so I'll try to put your names in it. All right. Next, question number 35. So we have 1/3 of the paint was used to color the living room. So if you used 1/3 of the paint, that means 2/3 is remaining. And then Drake uses 1/4 of what is left to paint the kitchen. So if Drake uses 1/4 of what is left, then that means 3/4 is remaining, correct? So that is 2/3 multiplied by 3/4 is equal to 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 4 is 12, which is 1/2. So a half of the original paint is remaining, and that is 6 liters. So a whole is equal to 12 liters, and the answer is D. Next question is Noreen. Noreen, which one would you like to do?
32, please.
32, okay. Let's take a look. I think next week, one thing that I can do, right, is I think I'll make a voting machine where I'll put all the questions in, and then based off which one gets the most votes, I'll do that one. So, you know, I'll just work my way down with the most popular questions. That way, most of your questions will be answered, I guess, rather than just random ones. But yeah, 32 was it, Noreen? Noreen, is it 32?
Yes.
Okay. 4 Loyola students have small toys. Shivani, Shivaga, Charvi, and Arya. These are all also old Loyola students. Shivani, I'm pretty sure, got into Perth Mod. I think Shivaga and Charvi got into Gate. I think Arya was like 2 years ago. I don't remember if she got into Gate or which school she got into. But I remember Shivani because I recently talked to her dad, and she's a Perth Mod. So Shivani has 1/10 of the, so 4 students have small toys. Shivani has 1/10 of the toys. Shivaga has 12 more toys than Shivani. So Shivani, let's just say Shivani has X amount of toys. Shivaga, let's call her G. Shivaga, SV. Shivaga has X plus 12. And Charvi has 1 more than Shivani, so X plus 1. And then Arya has double Charvi, so Arya has 2X plus 2. Okay? So this is how you'd represent all of them. And the question is, sorry. And then Shivani has 1/10 of the toys. So Shivani is X divided by 10, X being the number of toys. So I'll write down X is equal to number of toys. Shivaga, this is X divided by 10 plus 2, X divided by 10 by 2, and 2X over 10 plus 2. Okay. Now, all of this, all of their toys, if you add up all of their shares, for example, Shivani, Shivaga, Charvi, and Arya, if you add all of them up, that will give you the total number of toys, correct? Which is X, right? You understand, Nori?
Yes.
Okay, so now we have to do algebra, and this is where it kind of gets hard. Now, one way of making this easy, Noreen, is that actually, well, no, I'm not going to do that. That might confuse you guys. So, Noreen, here's the thing. 1x over 10 plus 1x over 10 plus 1x over 10 plus 2x over 10. What's that equal to?
5x.
Good girl. 5x over 10. And then what is 12 plus 2 plus 1 equal to?
15.
Good girl. 15 is equal to x. Okay. Now, x, to make it easier, we can just say it's the same as 10x over 10. Does that change anything, Noreen? And the reason is it doesn't. The reason is 10x over 10 is the same as x because you can just cancel out the 10s. But actually, I won't confuse you. I'll just call it x. Sounds good so far?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to move this fraction to the other side. Now, this fraction, 5x over 10, would you say, Noreen, that's the same as a half of an x? So 5x over 10. So there's 10 pieces and you have 5 of them. Would you say that's half of it?
Yeah.
So what's x minus a half of x?
5.
Good girl. So that would mean that it's 15 is equal to 5x over 10. And the reason is 1x is the same as 10 x's, right? A whole x. So you're left with 15 is equal to 5x over 10. Now here's the thing, Noreen. If half of it is equal to 15, what's the whole thing equal to?
Ten.
No. So if half of it is equal to 15, so 5 over 10 is equal to 15, what's the whole of it equal to? So if half of something is 15, what's the whole of it equal to?
30.
That's right. You understand?
Yeah.
All right. So to recap, we said that Shivani has the total number of toys divided by 10, so 1/10 of the total toys. Shivaga has 12 more than Shivani. Charvi has 1 more than Shivani. And Arya has 2 times what Shivani has. So Charvi has. And if you add all of them up, you get x. And we wrote out the equation, which is 5x over 10 plus 15 is equal to x. Moved the 5x over 10 across. So a whole x minus a half of an x is equal to half of an x, essentially. And 15 is equal to half of an x. So a whole x is equal to 30. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
Can you do question number 4 for quantitative reasoning?
So, Manvit, I'm pretty sure I've already answered your question earlier.
Nope, you haven't. Because when I was trying to communicate with you, you couldn't hear me.
Okay, all right. So, question number 4, it was really easy. So you just take Earth's temperature, which is 20, and you multiply it by 1.8, that gives you 36. And then it says you add 32, so you add 32 to 36, and you get 68.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Ella, question number 3. Ella, which question is this for?
Quantitative.
So this question here?
Yeah.
Okay. So to find out the halfway point, you know that Earth is 20 and then Venus is 480. So the total distance between them two is how much? Actually, sorry, I messed up. The total distance is 260. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. And halfway point of 260 is 130 here and 130 here, correct?
Melvin.
Harsh, again, as I mentioned,
No, I think
I'm-
it's 460, not 260.
sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, good spot.
460. Yeah,
Spot. Legend.
that's all right. Thank you.
460. All right. So half of 460 is 230 here and 230 here, right? And what's 20 plus 230?
250.
250.
So that's the exact halfway point. The answer is 250. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Prani, question number 25. Which subject is that from?
Quantitative reasoning.
Okay. With reference to the flowchart above, what is the probability that Alex stops the game after just one throw? So you stop the game whenever you get a 5 or a 10. And the probability of getting a 5 is 1/9, and the probability of getting a 10 is 336. So you can get either a 5 or a 9. And remember, in probability, whenever you see the word or, this means addition. So you just do 1/9 plus 3/36, and that's equal to 4/36 plus 3/36, which is 7/36. Do you understand, Prani?
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Sylvina, which question would you like to go through?
Question 14.
Okay. By the way, for the people who are wondering why I asked Sylvina which question she wants to go through, it's not because I'm randomly choosing her. So Sylvina's question's next, but Sylvina sent me, I think, quite a few questions. So I'm only choosing one of them. That's why I asked that. So question 14, this one, Sylvina?
Yes.
Okay. So the word modal, it means the most common. Okay, most common. So remember, there's mean, median, mode, right? So the most common growth rate, so we have 0.5, 1, 2.5, 0.5, 1.5, 0.5. Which number is the most common, Sylvina?
0.5.
And the answer is 0.5. Do you understand?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Aiden, question 25. So Aiden, we've gone through that question. Summer, question number 28. Helicopter blades make 4,000 revolutions per minute. How many degrees does it rotate in 1 second? Okay, so for this question, we start off by saying that, okay, it makes 4,000 rotations per minute. Now, again, when you get a question like this, where there's a lot of zeros and there's a lot of multiplication where you get big numbers, get rid of the zeros in the beginning, and then you can come back down, right? So we start off by 4,000 revolutions, and we have to end with, degrees per second. So that means that somewhere we have to multiply by 360, and somewhere we have to divide by 60. Do you guys understand? Yeah. So
Yeah.
well, one thing you can do is you can do that straight away. So for example, if we're dividing by 60 and multiply by 360, you can just take away the 2 zeros there. And then 36 divided by 6 is 6. And then, 6 divided by 6 is 1. And then you can do 4 times 6. So 4,000 multiplied by 6 will give you the answer, which is 24,000. That's like the super, super fast way of doing it in your head. Or you can just do the first one, which is 4 multiplied by 360, which is the same as 4 multiplied by 36. So again, keep count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros we have to add back later. 4 times 6 is 4 times 6.
24.
24. Put the 2 there. 4 times 3 is 12, 14. So now, and then we have to now divide by 60. Again, get rid of the 0 there. 6 into 14 goes how many times?
Twice.
So another 0. Twice. Remainder 2. 6 into 24 goes how many times?
4 times.
4 times. Sorry, we have to add it, like take away 0 because we're dividing it 4 times. And then now we're left with 3 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 24,000. The answer is D. But honestly, the easiest way, which is what I said, if you have both multiply by 360 and divide by 60, simplify these two first, and that'll leave you with multiply by 6, and that saves you a lot of time. Do you understand, Summer?
Melvin?
Yeah.
What exactly are revolutions?
Rotations, one full rotation.
Okay, thank you.
Melvin?
Yeah.
I still don't get this question.
Which part about it do you not get?
Like how we ended up with 24,000.
Okay, so right now it's saying that this helicopter blade, right? It rotates 4,000 times, okay?
Yep.
So it does 4,000 rotations per minute. Now, in one rotation, how many degrees? Actually, and then it says to go from this, it wants to find out, instead of rotations, it wants to find out degrees per second, okay? So to convert minutes to seconds and rotations to degrees. Do you understand?
Not really.
Which part do you not understand about that?
Like, I just didn't get what you said.
Okay, so what I was saying was that the question itself, right? It's saying that we have to go from rotations to finding out what degrees it is. And then it's saying to go from minutes to seconds. So minutes to seconds and rotations to degrees. Do you get what the question is trying to ask? Don't worry about what the words mean. That's not what the question's asking.
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you know what how many degrees are there in a rotation?
Would a rotation just be a circle?
That's right. Yep.
360?
Perfect. So if you go from one rotation to go to degrees, we multiply 1 by 360. That's why we have 360 degrees, correct?
Yeah.
So similarly, if you want to go from 1 minute into seconds, by the way, this is a bit, you have to think this one through, right? To go from 1 minute to seconds, yeah, sure, we multiply by 60, right? But it's saying this many things happen in a minute. How many of those will happen in a second? Are there more, like, is a minute bigger or a second bigger?
Minute?
Good. So that means that there'll be less of those happening in a second, correct?
Yeah.
So you divide by 60. So what that tells us is that we have to do 4,000 multiplied by 360 to get the degrees. And then we have to do this. We have to divide it by 60 to get degrees per second. Do you understand?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a long maths question, like, multiplication question on division. But to make it easier, you can just do 0, take away the 0. 36 divided by 6 is 6. Then this just cancels out, which is 1. So 4,000 multiplied by 6 is equal to 24,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Dev, question number 7. All right. How many degrees are there in an angle between the hour and the minute hand when the time is 7:20? And if the hour hand does not move until the next hour? So we have the minute hand at 4 o'clock and then the hour hand at 7 o'clock. And the question's asking how many degrees this is. Well, in a clock, there is 360 degrees. And there's 12 hours. So 36 divided by 12 is 30 degrees per hour, right? So every hour, it's so every one of these portions is 30 degrees. And between 4 and 7, we have 1, 2, 3 of those portions. So it's just 3 multiplied by 30 degrees, which is 90 degrees. Do you understand, Dave?
Yes.
Awesome.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's 7:20. So wouldn't the hour hand be a bit in front of 7?
Yes. But we say that if the hour hand does not move until the next hour. So in the previous year's booklet, we didn't have that, and then you had to figure that out, and that will get you to 100 degrees. But then the question was made easier, and it says the hour hand doesn't move. Agatha, question number 28. Agatha, is that your name? Agatha?
Yeah, that's my name.
Okay. So question number 28. So 28 is another mapping question, and this is a great question to teach you guys mapping again. So Agatha, do you remember what the first rule of mapping is?
Draw a dot.
Perfect. And in this question, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 features. Which one would you like to focus on first?
The star.
Okay, let's do the star. So in the first image, the star is here, and then so that it could go here as well. Then it's in the bottom left, so it could go top right. Then it's at the top, so it could go to the bottom. At the moment, it looks like it's a 6-sided map. Let's see if it makes sense on a 6-sided map. If it doesn't, then we will draw 2 more lines, make it an 8-sided map. Understand?
Yep.
Awesome. So star starts off here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 to 2, how much does it move by?
2.
All right, plus 2. 2 to 3, how much does it move by?
2.
2.
1,
And then 3 to 4, how much does it move by?
2,
3.
3.
3. Does this make any sense, Agatha?
Yep.
Does this make sense? 2, 2, 3. What's next then? This pattern doesn't make any sense, right?
Oh wait, yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, the pattern doesn't flow. So let's add the extra 2 lines and make it an 8-sided map and see if it makes any sense now. 1 to 2, it goes how much?
2.
2 to 3, how much does it go?
3.
Good. 3 to 4, how much does it go?
4.
Does this make sense now?
Yep.
2, 3, 4. So what comes next?
5.
Good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the star should be at the top right corner, correct?
Yep.
And which answer can we cancel out?
A.
Good. Good. Okay, so let's focus on the next map then. So which feature do we focus on? Actually, looking at B, C, and D, the 2 things that are different is the love heart. Actually, all of them can be different. So which one do you want to focus on? Love heart, smiley face.
Smiley face.
Okay, so let's do the smiley face. So smiley face starts off here 1, goes here 2, goes here 3, goes here 4. Can you see a very easy pattern?
Yep.
Plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So next, the smiley face should be at the bottom right corner. And the answer is not C, correct?
Yep.
Now, between B and D, the only things that are different are these, pretty much these lines, correct?
Yeah.
Now, how do we figure out what the pattern for those is? Well, let's, first of all, I'm tempted to say that it could be time. So for example, this is the hour hand, this is the, minute hand, and then it could be time. Actually, let's see if it is time. What time would this be, Agatha?
2:30.
2:30, or it could be 1:30, correct?
Yeah.
It's not very clear, right? Okay. In the next image, it's very clear. What time is it?
12:15.
No, 3 o'clock.
Oh yeah.
Hour and a half shorter. Yeah. Right. Next image, what time is it? 4:30 or 5:30.
4:30.
It's not a bit clear, so it could be 4:30 or 5:30, right? And
Yeah.
the
Isn't
final-
that 12:30? Because the hour hand is pointing up to 12 for a number.
What? Sorry, for which one?
Instead of 3 o'clock, shouldn't it be 12 o'clock? Because It
Because the
does-
hour hand is shorter. The minute hand is at the very top.
okay.
And then finally, what time is this, Agatha?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. All right. So if you go from if you go from 2:30 to 3 o'clock, it's plus half an hour. Then it's
Yep.
1.5 hours. Then plus, doesn't make any sense, right? But if you
Yeah.
say 30 to 3 o'clock, it's plus 1.5 hours, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, plus 1.5 hours, right?
Yep.
Plus 1.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, 6 plus 1.5 hours is
7:30.
7:30. And which of the answers make sense for that?
B.
B, good. And the answer is B. All right, so
Home time now.
that's where I'm ending the lesson today, guys. I will see you guys all at the mock exam next week. Bye.